Judah went to Washington, D.C. to ask the government for land and money. He convinced President Abraham Lincoln to sign the Pacific Railroad Act of 1862. This plan set up two railroad companies. The Central Pacific Railroad Company would begin in California, laying track east. The Union Pacific Railroad Company would start at the Missouri River, laying track west. They would meet somewhere in the middle. Each company would receive 6,400, later doubled to 12,800, acres of land and $48,000 in government bonds for each mile of track built. The company that got the farthest would make the most money. The land and money proved a good incentive for each company to do its best to win. The Union Pacific seemed to have the easier job. It was building across flat land. The Central Pacific had to run track through the Sierra Nevada mountains. Either way, the race was on. At first, workers were asked to lay 1.6 kilometers, 1 mile, of track per day. Then the goal became 3.2 kilometers, 2 miles per day. One day, the Union Pacific men began work at 3 a.m. and laid more than 13 kilometers, 8 miles of track, making the competition fierce. However, the Central Pacific team refused to be beaten. They announced that a special team of workers would lay 16 kilometers, 10 miles of track per day. The men were promised 4 days' pay for 1 day of work. By 7 p.m., they had put down their tools as they had laid 16.1 kilometers, 10 miles, and 56 feet of track.
This marker is near Promontory, Utah.
Who were these amazing workers? Many were immigrants glad to make $2 to $4 per day. There were Irish, German, Chinese, and Swedish workers. Others were former enslaved laborers or ex-soldiers. At the project's peak, more than 30,000 workers helped to construct the railroad. They built tunnels through mountains, laid rail across deserts, and dug through snowstorms, mudslides, and avalanches. Nothing stopped progress. The greatest contribution came from the more than 10,000 Chinese immigrants who worked to finish the railroad. In addition to laying track, they were often trained to use explosives. They used dynamite to blast train tunnels and lay track through the mountains. This was hazardous work. The worker was lowered down the cliff in a basket. He drilled a hole in the rock, inserted explosives, and lit them. Then the worker was quickly pulled back up the cliff before the blast.